Between now and the end of May, either the Minnesota Frost or Ottawa Charge will lift the Walter Cup, and regardless of which team wins it all, there is one lesson that we have learned from the second season of the PWHL Professional Women's Hockey League. It is that women's hockey definitely works. This has been the second successful go-around for a league that seems to be committed to building a foundation for something sustainable over the long term. PWHL,
give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah, indeed. In an era where professional sports leagues with bad business plans and even worse finances come and go, ebb like the tides, the PWHL is bucking that trend. For fans, this definitely feels like a long time coming. Dating back to the National Women's Hockey League at the turn of the century through to the CWHL and PHF, the past 25 years have been plagued by various issues. And look, I'll level with you. I'll just be completely honest. I did not expect the PWHL to be any different. Well, I could have not been more wrong on that front. 2 seasons, 1 million plus attendees, millions more watching the product. The PWHL has shown the world, myself included, this can and does work. Has it been perfect? No, absolutely not, and we'll touch on some of those issues as the video progresses. However, there are plenty of professional sports leagues in North America that would eagerly trade places for the support and exposure the PWHL has garnered in a short amount of time. So, how did we get here? The PWHL opted to go with an MLS-style single-entity ownership structure, meaning the league owns and controls everything. Now, the teams operate on their own. Each one has a separate general manager, all of that stuff. There are pros and cons to this, given everything is dependent upon the entity, the single entity's ability to conduct business, to grow the league, to bring in new fans, as well as sponsorship, media deals, all of that stuff. What's more, the entire existence of the league in the single entity ownership structure format is reliant on a willingness to tolerate financial losses. Enter the Mark Walter Group. Obviously, the head, Mark Walter, is best known for being LA Dodgers chairman, as well as part owner of the Lakers, the Sparks, among various other sports holdings. They went into this women's hockey endeavor with a very clear timeline: 10 years. Their business model was crafted for 10 years. That was the runway here. It was their understanding a full decade was required to build something sustainable from a business standpoint. Losses in the early years weren't necessarily losses as most folks would view them. They were seen as an investment, what was needed to build this into a profitable entity. It's not unusual. We've seen this with Major League Cricket as well. They're hemorrhaging money, if we're being honest, but they view it as an investment, as part of the building process. The first 10 years of a new league are really about proof of concept, building up a fan base that extends beyond those who already know the sport exists, those passionate diehards who are going to support it through thick and thin. It does seem like those running the PWHL didn't fully appreciate or understand the appetite there was for a professional women's ice hockey league in North America. In fact, attendance were wildly beyond the Mark Walters Group's estimates in the first season, and they grew again in 2024-25. Across 2 seasons, more than 1 million folks have attended PWHL matches. The per-game average was 7,260 fans for this season. The Takeover Tour, which sees teams play one-off games in markets that do not have their very own PWHL franchise, has been an absolute roaring success. Even the teams with the lowest attendance, New York and Boston, are above the league's projections. More can definitely be done in those markets, but the situation isn't as bleak or as dire as some out there would have you believe. It's all part of the 10-year process. That is only one piece to the bigger PWHL puzzle. Sadly, Canadian fans don't have access to the next awesome feature I am about to talk about. That, of course, is having all games broadcast free, streamed live on YouTube. And it's not just in America. Everyone else in the world outside of Canada can watch these games for free on this very platform of YouTube. It's pretty freaking sweet, if I'm being honest with you. The league does have some contracts with regional sports networks in America to increase visibility that way as well, but these are non-exclusive agreements. There are no blackouts in the United States. And if someone wants to watch a game in a city that has a team, all I need to do is open up YouTube. To that end, production of games is outstanding. It is big league quality all the way around. Announcers, broadcast packages, camera work. It is truly exceptional, and it does add quite a bit to the viewing experience. As someone who watches his fair share of non-mainstream sports leagues, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this emphasis on the little details. It really makes the viewing experience much more enjoyable, even if it is a money loser for the league. Now, a snazzy broadcast package is ultimately meaningless if the quality of play is not up to par, and to that extent, the PWHL holds up this end of the bargain as well. It's not the most polished, well-rounded version of ice hockey you'll ever see. What it does offer, though, is talented players competing hard. Sports is entertainment. The PWHL is entertaining, and it's only really scratching the surface of what professional women's ice hockey is capable of. Let's not forget pathways and development are uneven across the sport. Even something like checking in the women's game isn't standardized. For the game to be this good at this point in time is fairly remarkable when you sit down to think about it, regardless of what some small-brained, smaller-dicked yokels on social media want to say. The PWHL serves as a reminder women's sports is well and truly ahead of schedule. Let us not forget, women's ice hockey is not sanctioned by U Sports up in Canada until 1998. The NCAA here stateside doesn't recognize women's ice hockey as a sport and organize it as such until 2000. Before that, it was 30 plus years of affiliated but not well-known teams and students keeping the sport going, keeping it alive. The Women's Ice Hockey World Championships, they aren't first organized until the late 1980s. Women's ice hockey at the Olympics doesn't arrive until 1998. Do you want to know why the quality of men's sports is so far ahead of women's sports right now? It's because they've been doing it for decades and decades longer. And for all the trash people talk about women's sports leagues and attendance and whatnot, the difference is that no one cares to remember when NFL teams were coming and going in the 1930s, or just how bad the average game of professional football was really up until the 1970s. No one wants to focus on NBA teams playing in high school gyms back in the day, or the various issues the NHL and MLB has had with their finances over the years. People complain about the quality or lack thereof when it comes to women's hockey or women's basketball or any other women's sports out there, yet they don't want to recognize the only reason men's sports have reached the quality they are at today is decades of training, development, practice, pathways, just the ability to participate in sports at every level. Don't believe me? Go watch a random basketball game from the 1940s or 50s. Lord knows I've watched my fair share of pro sports from way back in the day, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey. The quality isn't great in those early decades. So for the PWHL to be where it is right now, that is something worth celebrating. The games are nothing if not entertaining sports contests, some skill, some physicality, two teams doing everything they can to win. Everything you need to have an entertaining, watchable game. That, though, is just in and of itself a feat to marvel at when you look back 30 years ago and realize that women's ice hockey wasn't anything. Now it's drawing 10,000 plus people to games. If that isn't a sporting success story, then I don't know what is. Really though, this boils down to accessibility and affordability. The general consensus is that the PWHL does both of these right. It is easy and free for Americans to watch. Again, I'm really sorry, Canada, but I can't help you there. Now, I've not been to a game in person, but those who have speak highly of the experience. Ticket prices are reasonable as well. Everyone can watch PWHL games, and those who do decide to attend one in person don't have to break the bank to do so. That's a big thing here. More importantly, the things the United Football League have done wrong since relaunching. I don't know how many relaunches they've done for spring football, but it's getting up there. But all of the things the UFL did wrong on the 5th or 9th or 25th go around, a lack of a clear identity, not doing enough to reach out to local markets, markets, just ignoring the little details that matter, are all areas the PWHL excels in. The UFL seems to want everyone else to do things for them. The PWHL has taken the situation by the scruff of its neck. And make no mistake, as spring football just sort of stagnates, women's ice hockey is growing, and it's growing despite having less history and less visibility than professional football. It hasn't been a perfect existence, but so many of the little things professional sports leagues, new professional sports leagues, do get wrong in their early years, the PWHL has gotten right. Not batting 1,000, but it's a high average nonetheless. Hockey Night in Canada had Don Cherry. Here's hoping we can get Women's Hockey Night in America with Fiona Apple. Okay, so that's unlikely. I don't even think the world's ready for that, but make no mistake here, the PWHL's early success is no fluke. Here's hoping those running the show continue on with their 10-year plan. Too many pro sports leagues sell out for the quick buck and end up regretting it in the long run. Staying the course, that is the best way to ensure sustainable, manageable growth. It is also how you keep the play quality high. That standard is very important, and you can't necessarily maintain it if you're oversaturating with more games and more teams. PWHL, I'm going to say it again.
Give me a hell yeah!
2 seasons in, and those running it are showing the world this is how you build a professional sports league. Next up is Vancouver and Seattle. As a West Coast guy, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the PWHL goes from here. Thank you, though, for watching this video. I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback. If you would like to know more about something else from this channel, well, there's a video in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And as we say around here, hashtag take it out to the 25.